Strategy and authority is terrible. And what I recommend to do instead. Now, disclaimer, this does not mean, I just think that especially when someone is new to human design, when they're just learning, follow your strategy and authority just doesn't, I don't think it's helpful. Not to say that's not good advice. I just think it is not helpful. I don't think it's helpful, especially for beginners. And this is just my personal opinion, because when I first started, everyone was like, oh, just follow your strategy and authority, just follow your strategy and authority. I was like, okay, but what does that mean? What does that feel like? How do I know something is not my strategy and authority? Since I've been doing my sacral sessions and I've been working with so many of you on, tapping into your strategy and tapping into your authority, tapping into your sacral, so many of you were like, I can't tell if this is a sacral yes or if it's just a yes from my mind, right? And you don't get the nuances of that when you're just following your strategy and authority, right? Because at a certain point, it all feels the same until you get into the habit of actually knowing what your sacral feels like. So, you can always, do baby steps, and I always recommend that, but I wanted to give just a little bit more structure. And what I would personally tell a client, what I personally have told clients, in place of just follow your strategy and authority. So if you are new here, my name is Ebony. I'm a human design leader, expert, and coach. And on this channel, we learn about human design and gene keys in order to remember our power, prioritize our pleasure, and create the freedom that we desire. So reason number one, there's no support and structure. Just follow your strategy and authority doesn't tell you how to do it. It doesn't tell you really the mechanics of it, and it doesn't give you the ability to distinguish what is actually my strategy, what is actually my authority, and what is the noise, right? What are the things that are not me, right? So what I will say instead, in order to create just a little bit more support and structure, is number one, get to know your non-self. Now that is the non-self of your energy type, which will be bitterness, frustration, anger, disappointment, whatever that is, but also the non-self of your centers. And I think this is actually really, really important, right? Because, and I'll just use my personal experience, our sacral responses can sometimes get hijacked by our heads, especially if we have undefined crowns and undefined ajnas, right? So knowing the non-self of your undefined centers, and even the non-self of your defined centers, can be really helpful when you're trying to distinguish, is this a sacral yes, or is my undefined crown, going haywire, right? Number two, lean into your definition. Your definition is your consistency. It is your structure. It is your North Star. It is the energy that you always have. So even if, you're struggling with, releasing the non-self or stepping out of the, or moving out of your shadows and into your gift frequencies, if you lean into your definition majority of the time, things tend to fall into place, right? And the reason why this is different from just follow your strategy and authority is because you can have centers that have nothing to do with your strategy and authority. Like the throat center on its own is not an authority, right? So if you are struggling with tapping into your sacral center, right, but you also have a defined throat, like say you're a manifesting generator with the 3420 channel, lean into your voice. Lean into the things that you feel need to be said, right? And trust that as you continue to lean into your definition, your energy is going to shift and you'll start knowing more and more what things need to be said, what things don't need to be said. And you can start to correlate that to the feelings that you have in your body, or the sounds that you make, or the way that your body is moving or reacting to certain things, which can help you get more in touch with your sacral response, right? And number three, have a deconditioning practice. I am a firm believer, which is why I created my deconditioning masterclass, which I will link down below if you are interested. I firmly believe that everyone should have some kind of daily deconditioning work that you do, just to get yourself into alignment, just to come back to the truth of who you are. I have a daily deconditioning practice. I recommend all of my clients have a daily deconditioning practice. If you are interested in creating your own, Again, my deconditioning masterclass goes over everything that I know about deconditioning your human design. So if you're interested in that, the link will be in the description box. Number 2, it doesn't address conditioning. I'm not going to say that following your strategy and authority is necessarily hard, but when it's so opposite to what you have been doing for your entire life, it can feel not natural. There's a word for it that I can't think of, but it's not a habit, right? You've been acting in a specific way for a long time, and to just suddenly switch to a completely different way of being is, going to take some practice. And when people are saying, oh, just follow your strategy and authority, they aren't addressing the deeply held, possibly trauma-ridden conditioning that you may have experienced or you may be holding. So again, number 1, have a daily deconditioning, even if you don't do it daily. I personally like to do it daily, but again, I'm a manifesting generator with 3420 channel. I like being busy, all right? So have a deconditioning practice, something, journaling, meditating, visualizing, grounding, something where you are releasing the conditioning, you're coming back to your true self, you're cutting off the layers that are not actually you. And again, my deconditioning masterclass will be in the description box if you are interested in learning how I personally do it and how you can create your own. Number 2, start to notice where you are most influenced by other people. This is a big one, because especially if you have splits in your design, especially if you have a lot of undefined centers like I do, sometimes if we're not aware, we can be thinking that we're following our strategy and authority, but in actuality, we're just around someone who has so much impact, who has so much energy coming off of them, and it makes us think that we're acting in alignment when actually we're not. Like for me, I only have 3 defined centers, but I have a sister who has 8 defined centers. So when I get around her, I feel like a superhuman. I feel super powerful, but I have to be very aware when I am around her to make sure that I am not acting from a space of unalignment, that I am following my strategy and authority, and I'm not getting caught up in her emotional weight, right? And number 3, baby steps. Because again, some of us can just flip the switch, right? We can go from being completely out of alignment to being completely aligned in a day, and it's fine. Some people can do that. I have never been one of those people. Well, that's not true. For most things, I'm not one of those people. Baby step your way to this. Lean in. I love to use that phrase, lean in. Just lean into it, right? Lean into your strategy, lean into your authority, lean into your deconditioning, lean into this awareness of where you're being influenced by people, right? You do not have to build Rome in a day, okay? And finally, number 3, it doesn't give you anything to fall back on. I will say, following your strategy and authority is very important. It is a huge part of your design. I would say like at least 80 to 90% of your design is following your strategy and authority. But just saying, like just doing that, it doesn't give you anything to fall back on in case you feel stuck or you feel lost. Because if all you have to go off of is follow your strategy and authority, well, what happens when you get stuck? What happens when you really don't know how to respond in the situation, or if that's an invitation or not, There's nothing to fall back on if you can't actually tap in to your authority or your strategy in that moment. So what I love to recommend is number 1, leaning into your secondary authority. I learned this, like back when I first started learning about human design, my very first coach talked about secondary authorities. And I have held this in my brain, in my heart ever since, because I believe every place where we are defined is a place that we get to lean on. So if you can have an emotional authority and have a secondary sacral authority, you could have a secondary ego authority, or you have a secondary splenic authority, right? You get to lean on each one of those areas if you are not feeling completely connected to your primary authority. That gives you something else to fall back on. It gives you more information to take into account when you are going through this process. And you don't feel like, oh, I'm just doing something wrong. No, you're learning, and having a little bit more information can be really, really helpful. And then number 2, lean into your channels. I love channels. That is probably one of my most favorite thing to learn about and to work on people with, because it's literally energy in motion. It's where the energy is being moved. It's where the energy is being transformed into something completely different. When you feel like I can't tap into my sacral, try tapping into the channel that your sacral is connected to. Like for me, it's my 3420. So if I'm having trouble feeling into my sacral response, I know I need to go out and experience and talk about that experience. I need to go and do something. I need to go do something satisfying and then talk about that, even if it's just to myself. Because that 3420, that channel of magnetic work, when I am doing something that lights me up and I talk about it with people, it, number one, moves me into a state of alignment, but then it also awakens something within them. My excitement, my enthusiasm, my joy, my pleasure is then transferred to them, and they can feel that from me. So when I am feeling stuck or I am feeling lost and I can't like tap into my sacral, I know exactly what I need to do. I need to utilize that channel. I need to go and do my magnetic work, and everything kind of falls into place from there. So is that the last one? Yes, that's awesome. So I hope that this was helpful. Again, if you are interested in my deconditioning masterclass, it literally has every single thing that I know that I personally do when it comes to deconditioning, and it can help you literally create your own deconditioning practice for any area of your chart. I will have that linked down below. I will also put up a gigs playlist if you haven't seen it, and I will see you in the next video.